Over the years, I've been very fortunate to harvest a lot of great bucks and even shoot some exceptional deer, some really upper age class deer here in the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin. But I can honestly say that nothing has ever compared to the story we're about to tell here, the story of BEAMER, an 8.5-year-old Wisconsin swamp buck. The chase for BEAMER really starts back in 2014. Two really kind of low quality trail camera pictures of this buck that didn't have any real tines to him, just mostly beams. And he looked like a 2.5-year-old deer and named him BEAMER. That's kind of where it all began. 2015 was really the year BEAMER became more regular on the property. It was a 3-year-old buck, short tines, wide, just really nothing there that was real interesting, and didn't hunt it too hard, and kind of looked forward to future seasons. Maybe some of these deer could grow a little bit and get some age on them. Keeping these trail camera pictures and just following these deer, that's how these stories begin to build. This property, it's a Wisconsin property, a swamp area. Some pretty cool features to it. We got a river running through it, some timber, some ag fields, just a great mix for a lot of wildlife. But at the time, back in 2015, when I really began to hunt this property, the whitetail herd and the whitetail population was actually extremely poor. From a management perspective, it's more of a recreational property, and it did not hold very good mature whitetails at all. A couple bucks would, survive here and there, but for the most part, pretty poor. And back then we brought in Andy Orr from AWS and had an actual walkthrough consult, and he kind of gave us some pretty good ideas, laid it out on a map, things we could do to improve the property, the habitat, some food plots, hinge cutting, things like that. And it's good to see kind of his perspective on full-on whitetail, management system, and then kind of where the property sat at the moment, how can those two kind of mesh together? The 2016 season rolls around. BEAMER shows back up. At this point, I think he's a 4-year-old buck. It's late October. I'm out there hunting. I want to get a look at him. He rolls right in, a place I call Seven Corners. Awesome funnel location for the pre-rut. Now I'm filming him, just kind of analyzing the situation, and I just decided, he's not quite ready. Let him walk through. 2 days later, he walks through again. Starting to learn kind of his patterns, thinking what can we use moving forward when he is old enough, 5, 6, 7 years old. What kind of clues can we get on how he uses the property and maybe how we could take him in the future. Heading into the early spring of the next year, I was out shed hunting and found one of his sheds out in the swamp. It's kind of cool just to hold that shed, knowing, moving forward, this is a buck we're going to really target. Being that this property, it's a couple-hour drive just to get there. If I'm trying to hunt it, I got to plan in advance. I got to go there and try to make it a week or a weekend to get some actual good hunting, some stand time in. And it was that first week of November. Cold front came through, and he's just running around. And I can tell, the first hot doe was in. I think I saw 3 bucks that morning, all just dogging this doe, and BEAMER was right on her. It's November 4th. He's just prior to that lockdown phase, that peak breeding, and I got to try to get something done. Eventually, here he comes. BEAMER's just beelining it right to me. I'm sitting on the riverbank, blowing my scent off in just an ideal position, and I think he's going to come out in front of me, and he ends up going down on the riverbank, extremely steep behind me. It was kind of at that moment where my mindset changed, Something just kind of clicked, and it was telling myself, I don't think it's meant to be. I don't think I'm supposed to shoot BEAMER right now. I don't know what that means. Maybe somebody else is meant to shoot him. Maybe he's meant to make it another year, get a little bit bigger. I don't know why, but for some reason it's not meant to be. Just kind of said, you know what? I'm gonna let him go this year. (2018) BEAMER is a 6.5-year-old buck. This is that range when they become probably the toughest to kill. Their home area really starts to shrink. They've made it this far in life. They're a mature buck. They know the tricks. They've been hunted. They're just laser sharp in the way they move. It's gonna be a challenge. We got this puzzle. We gotta figure it out. The pieces are starting to come together. And to me, I think that the last couple days in October, and again, the first few days in November, is really that window to try to shoot BEAMER. The trail camera started lighting up and right around that window, pre-rut. For some reason, that last couple days in October, there's always the first hot doe. And I don't know if it's the same doe or if it's just that general area, that's when the does come into estrus, but that's when things just light up and all the bucks just start moving in daylight. Just shows there's a big time opportunity, a big window to capitalize on a buck, especially a mature buck like BEAMER. Does are starting to pop and BEAMER's going crazy. He's doing hot laps around the property, and I actually had an encounter with him. I had him run through at 15 yards right behind a hot doe, and I self-filming. It was drizzling, had my camera covered up, and by the time I pull the rain cover off, grab my bow, he's out of sight. And this is the only encounter I had with him in 2018. Heading into 2019, I've been getting my butt kicked with BEAMER. He's got my number, he's got it figured out. There's a lot of things that could happen, harsh winters, car accidents, disease, etc. Is he gonna show up? He shows back up. This is probably the biggest he's been yet. We turned into an 11-pointer, 7.5-year-old buck. This is something that's super rare, something I'm gonna put a big commitment into this year, and I'm gonna find a window to go hunting. Looking back, it's always those last couple of days in October, the first few days in November, and I think it's honestly because he doesn't live on this property until the rut, and he's just coming here for the hot does. I drive up to Wisconsin October 28th. I'm thinking I got a good 7 days before BEAMER gets locked down, when the does come into estrus, and basically it becomes impossible to kill him. Mentally, it's kind of wearing. Years of hunting this deer. I've had opportunities, I've had shots, close calls, I've had him coming in, before camera light, just all kinds of things. And you start to think, is this ever gonna happen? Is somebody else gonna shoot him? Is somebody gonna hit him on the road? Is somebody gonna poach him? Who knows? The longer this journey goes on, it just seems like my odds are going down, 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 down. And it's kind of depressing, thinking about it, especially being so close so many times for so many years. It's hard to even think back that many years of hunting one specific buck and not getting an arrow in him, or not, having a really good opportunity. It's just frustrating, and it's starting to wear on me, and I'm just not sure if it's ever going to happen. So I slide out there on the northwest point of the corner, kind of looking over the swamp, and BEAMER shows up and he's bedded 80 yards away. And I figure, okay, I just need to wait him out. He's gonna want to move to the food source. I'm gonna have an opportunity. And the doe starts heading to the west back into the swamp. And here goes BEAMER, he's following her. He goes down into this little opening. We put a little food plot in. So I grab the extinguisher, I'm trying to do some directional calling. And here comes this 2.5-year-old buck. He just charges into my right. And now I got a live decoy. Like, this is perfect. BEAMER, he's starting to get upset. He turns around, he snort wheezes, his tail sticks out. And he's close, he's 50 yards or so, and I'm thinking if I can just close the gap, 15 yards. And he actually does a little bit of a standing scrape. And I know I got him fired up, but I also know there's a hot doe out in the swamp. I just can't quite pull it off, and BEAMER, walks off back in the swamp, and that's the end of it. Typically when a buck's on a hot doe, there's that 48-hour window where they're gone. Basically no chance unless the doe pulls them right through. But I'm still gonna hunt. I go out there and I'm sitting, all day sitting. October 31st, I think, is the first time this doe maybe came out of the swamp. I have no idea. Maybe they've been back there for 2 days. And they come in and I'm all twisted around and in a different stand location. And the doe comes right behind me at 25 yards, and there's BEAMER. The camera's arm is all the way around me. I'm just trying to get some footage, and the whole scenario just was not ideal. Could not shoot that direction. One more missed chance at BEAMER, and that pretty much was the last chance I had in 2019. Heading into 2020, BEAMER keeps outsmarting me. Something's got to change. Gotta, entice him to use this a little bit more. let's fire up the chainsaws. Let's at least improve it a little bit to see if we can create some bedding areas so he feels more comfortable. Me and my father-in-law, we went out on the swamp. It was frozen in January. We basically just clear cut, several acres out there. Try to get a nice bedding area. There's some high spots he likes to bed out there. We try to really improve it out there, give them a nice sanctuary out in the swamp, out in what we call the island. And then I also hit a little spot over towards the driveway where I just did a little bit of a clear cut. Kind of an area nobody goes, there's no golf cart trails, there's no human activity. An area, just a 1 acre pocket where I feel like maybe I can give him just one more area he can feel comfortable. He can bounce back and forth. Hopefully, these manipulations, these little pockets of bedding, whether he uses them or not, bring some does in, bring some more deer into where if this opportunity comes pre-rut and during the rut, we got some more areas for Beamer to check for hot does and more opportunities. Beamer's now 8.5 years old, and honestly, he looks a lot like he did last year from a rack standpoint. His neck, you can barely see a difference between his chest and his head. It just kind of tapers right into his head. He doesn't even have a neck. It's just an extension of his big chest. Another cool thing is I think his home range is really starting to shrink here. He comes out of these little bedding areas and he starts to work the area, and some cool things you can see on trail camera, which you don't see at his younger age, is he's really slow and methodical the way he walks out of the bedding. So even if the video is a daylight video, he stops, he kind of swivels his ears. He's using, the sight, the sound, the smell, and he really has a pretty good sense at how he can use all aspects of the property with all wind directions and in all conditions. He's got this system figured out. So as the season kind of closed in here in 2020, I'm looking at all the different stand sites I have on this property that I've set up over the years. One is a spot where I get a ton of trail camera videos of him, and you can actually see the stand right up above him in a lot of these clips. It's real tight to the bedding area, so it's like kind of a high risk, high reward spot. And then there's another location just on the other side of the driveway where I thought I gotta get a stand in there, because if the wind shifts and it's a certain condition with heavy south winds, I need an option to be able to sit, especially for all day sits, or if I'm gonna hunt it really hard during this pre-rut time, I gotta have an option in there. The stage is now set and it's just a waiting game. Late October, I'm gonna head up there a couple days earlier this season just because I gotta hit that window. This is when he runs during daylight, so I head up October 26th. I get to the property, I start noticing just rubs are just trash, trees are all shredded up. There's scrapes on the ground all over the place on all these different trails. I just slide in, grab a couple easy trail cameras that night, and sure enough, Beamer's starting to daylight, and he's starting to go right by this brand new stand I hung. And the weather conditions are going to be perfect where I can get in this stand and get my first shot at Beamer. This is the moment I've been waiting on all year, October 28th. I have no idea why, but just that date for me, it just seemed like that was the day that I felt like I was gonna shoot Beamer. I hear a little bit of rustling off to the right, and I immediately grab the binoculars, it's first light, and I look, and it's a doe. Okay, I gotta get ready. So I get the camera ready, get all set up. You never know when a buck's coming in behind a doe this time of the year. And once you know it, Beamer shows up right behind her. It's first light. Do I wait for better light for better footage, or do I get ready for a shot? And one of the bad parts about filming is you always lose that first 10 minutes of light on your camera where you got legal shooting light in real life. And it's almost like deja vu. Been hunting this deer for how many years? He's right here, and I can't even make up my mind. So I'm looking at the monitor, and I can easily see Beamer come in, and the camera's just not picking up great light, and I'm trying to think, all these years trying to get this on film, trying to hunt Beamer, and I can barely see him on the monitor, but in real life, it's plenty light. Beamer's 10 yards in closing, and the decision's easy. 8.5-year-old whitetail coming into 5 yards, and I point the camera and I get ready for the shot. just ended. He's laying 45 yards away. I've been trying to shoot him for 3 years. I'm excited to go get my hands on him. Put years into this buck. By far the oldest buck I've ever shot. It's just something that you can hardly describe unless you're in that moment. Such a rush of emotion. BEAMER's down 30, 40 yards away from my tree stand. Quickest expiration of a buck I've ever seen. You know, perfect heart shot at 5 yards, but just really excited and fortunate and happy to be able to get him down. Super quick, clean kill. Part of me not getting him on film was, you know, really bummed out, but in the end, that's just how it's meant to be, you know, just me out there hunting BEAMER, and it all came down to just that one moment of execution. That's just how this whole story played out with BEAMER over all these years. So many close calls. He basically knew how to survive, and he was really, really good at it, and just a master of survival. And BEAMER just ruled this place for so long, and to have him now gone, it's almost like there's a void there. But at the same time, I'm really excited. I mean, I just shot the oldest buck of my life, BEAMER. Here he is. Honestly, he's a lot bigger than I thought he was. Super, super massive. 8-year-old Wisconsin swamp buck. Just the most mature, intelligent, gnarly old buck I've ever had the chance to hunt. Called him BEAMER because he always had super thick beams. As you can see here, the mass he carries is just absolutely incredible. And never in my wildest dreams would I imagine I'd be sitting here behind an 8-year-old whitetail. And this is very, very rare. 8.5-year-old buck in this part of northern Wisconsin is extremely rare. I couldn't be more thankful, more grateful for the opportunity to shoot him. Some of the keys to this hunt, one for sure, is just using all that history from all those years. Using that and actually putting that into work on a future strategy was huge. Another really big factor is just the low-key strategy that I've implemented throughout all these years of hunting BEAMER. I don't think BEAMER honestly knew that I was hunting him for most of those 8 years he was alive, and I think part of that kind of played into his core area shrinking. My low-impact hunting, his core area shrinking, you know, they kind of came together and he started using this property more and more the older he got. And the final key to success was really just diving in when I knew he would move during daylight, and that's that last couple days in October or the first week in November. All those years of history, knowing that he just daylighted during that period, going in there and getting the job done.